Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where we explore the intersection of technology and humanity. And on today's episode, we're joined by Ayanna, the Executive Director of Resilient Coders, a non-profit organisation that is providing equity access to the tech economy, that is closing the generational wealth gap for Black, Indigenous and people of colour communities, or BIPOC for short. And this non-for-profit organisation is empowering BIPOC youth from low-income communities to become software engineers with an average salary of over $94,000. And I want to learn more about its mission of a social justice through economic empowerment, where they offer 20-week coding boot camps and making them affordable and accessible to underprivileged students. And today's guest is a transformational leader. She's got over 20 years experience in marketing and operations, and she's here to share her story and discuss the importance of equity, access and social justice in the tech industry. So during our conversation today, she'll answer questions around equity access to the tech economy, closing the generational wealth gap. So buckle up and hold on tight, because no matter where you're listening in the world, I'm going to beam your ears all the way to Philadelphia, where Ayanna is going to share her vision for creating a more equitable and better tech industry for all. So let's get started. So a massive warm welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you today, but can you just tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, good morning, Neil, and good morning to everyone listening. My name is Ayanna Lott-Pollard. I am the executive director for an organization called Resilient Coders. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and graduated from Temple University with a degree in journalism. And I quickly found out that although I love writing, I love speaking, I love the gift and the art of communication, that particular field wasn't for me. I worked in advertising for some time and marketing, decided that I wanted to lean more into operations. So I went to school for my MBA, continued to pursue schooling, went to Harvard Business Extension School for some classes, and then later on to Columbia University to get my certificate in coaching. So my career has been nonlinear. I've always followed my passion for helping organizations and people unearth their highest potential. So that's just a little bit about me.
Awesome. And I love hearing more about your origin story. And obviously, you're currently with Resilient Coders. And I'd love to find out more about the origin story of how Resilient Coders were founded. And also your role in this. What inspired you to join the organization as its executive director?
So Resilient Coders was founded by David Delmar Cintiez in 2014. He was employed with PayPal. And as he shares that he went to a conference, and when he looked around the conference, he didn't see anyone in the room who looked like him. Mm-hmm. And he thought, wow, this is an opportunity for me to create opportunities for folks who are Black and brown to latch on to skills to become a technologist or a software engineer. So he started in a school, and then he moved on working in juvenile detention, and he understood and could see like, wow, these students catch on quickly. They understand, they know. And so that was the first iteration of Resilient Coders. And then quickly thereafter, we began to enroll students, young adults, 18 to 30 years old, into the program, teaching them and providing them with skills, and then placing them into organizations. And the organizations would pay upwards of, or a range of $65,000 to $100,000+ a year, which created new economic opportunities for this group. So here we are, 2023. We have about 300+ alumni who are now working in tech. Some are now are entrepreneurs who own their own businesses. And some are also working as senior software developers or engineers in the industry. How I came into this space, I was laid off from my job in healthcare in 2020 during the pandemic, like so many people. And when I got laid off, I really thought about, what do I want to do next? And I was already coaching and working with emerging leaders in that space, but, just being home and having the opportunity to do some soul searching, I knew I wanted to do something. If, going back into the workforce, I wanted to do something that made a difference, and not just, made a difference in air quotes. And so someone reached out to me and said, hey, there's an opportunity available for chief of staff for an organization called Resilient Coders. I think you'll be interested. You should talk to the executive director. And I had a conversation with Dell. I'd never heard of Resilient Coders. And when they shared the mission, social justice through economic empowerment, in that space and time in our country, that just spoke volumes to me, because I had been trying to figure out, how can I make an impact, a greater impact? And after speaking to Dell and going through the interview process, I said to him, if you decide to hire someone else, I understand, but tell me, how can I help? What can I do to help promote this mission? What can I do to create opportunities for more young adults to have access to this program? And thankfully, I was hired as the chief of staff in August of 2021. Our founder, David, we call him Dell, he decided to resign the next year, not very long after my tenure began. And I, stepped forward and applied for the executive director position, knowing the heart of the organization, the heart of the founder, and just having a vision for how we could move the needle and take up more space and do more for the generation.
And it's such a great story and such an important topic right now. And I think that diversity of thought, having multiple perspectives from every background, is crucial to innovation and problem solving in the tech industry, and also solving the tech skill shortage that we're reading about on a daily basis. So in your view, how does providing equity access to the tech economy contribute to also closing the generational wealth gap for Black, Indigenous and people of colour communities, or BIPOC for sure?
I love this question. So I read a study recently from the McKinsey Global Institute, and when I read it initially talked about 1 million jobs disappearing from the economic landscape by 2026. The jobs will succumb to automation. And when you think about automation, some people say, well, what is that? When you go to a grocery store, now we check ourselves out. We used to have a customer service associate or someone there who checked our belongings out, who checked the food out, who scanned everything, put it in a bag for you. And there are a few, but those jobs have been taken. There are so many jobs in customer service that we don't see as many, and as time progresses, we won't see. And statistics show that 17% of Black and 13% of Latino retail workers are living below the poverty line, compared to 9% of retail workforce overall. And so when you look a little deeper, retail employers pay 70% of Black and Latino full and part-time retail workers less than $15 per hour. So we have a disparity there. Not only do we have few people working in that industry, if they work in that industry, they're still living in poverty. And that's pretty, we can say that's the bad news.
Yeah.
But when you think about the good news is that there will be 13 million new jobs created in response to emerging economies, in response to aging populations, and then new technology. And when you look at technology is a high growth industry where people are able to, based on their skills, based on their intellect and how they attain the tech stack and the languages, but they can create opportunities in this sector and have a career starting on average at $65,000 per year. So that changes the economic landscape for a generation when you're providing opportunities for folks to get into jobs that will close that wealth gap, that they can start at 18 years old or 20 years old or 25 years old. They can start in an industry and continue to grow as their skills grow.
And the way in which you are making a difference here is absolutely inspirational. And for a lot of business leaders listening, maybe they want to follow in your footsteps. And they have to have that golden rule in business in every industry, is that you can't improve what you don't measure. So can you tell me a little bit more about the impact of resilient coders on your graduates and their communities, and also how organisations can measure success in terms of things like social justice and economic empowerment?
We have been in Boston. We started in Boston in 2014. In 2021, we expanded to Philadelphia. And while we're still really early in Philadelphia, we have, so when we look at our stats, and I love data, 100% of our graduates have a new skill. That's a given. Everyone who comes through the program, it's a 20-week boot camp. They're learning JavaScript, they're learning Node, they're learning React, they're learning MongoDB. We tap into HTML and CSS. They are full stack developers. We teach general object-oriented programming principles. While they're going through the program, they're doing multiple projects. They're building full stack applications. And then at the conclusion of the program, they have to complete a capstone project where they get to build everything on their own, share their code with organizations. And while they're going through the program, we take them through a behavioral interview. They understand and know how to build their personal brand via LinkedIn and social media. They also do a mock technical interview. And we invite our partners, our employer partners, to come in and have conversations, meet the students, and watch them grow and develop prior to making a decision about hiring. Our students, the average salary is $94,000 a year. That's in Boston. In Philadelphia, it's $92,500. Prior to the economic transition that we're in right now with tech, we could say proudly that we've placed about 85% of our students in jobs. Those numbers are a little rickety right now, and I'll use the word rickety. Those numbers, we are seeing a lot of the organizations that we've partnered with previously, they're going through transition. So we're working and partnering with their organizations, and then looking at other organizations in industry that have everybody's a tech company now. So just looking for those opportunities to partner with organizations outside of tech. I don't want to sound redundant, but we have had seen just a bit of a slowdown. But we know, based on our conversation or the previous conversation, that tech is a need. It's not an option. So we know there's a lull right now, but we're looking and continuing to prepare this generation for the next opportunity or the next boom. But our students are prepared, they're ready. And if an organization is looking to educate and prepare, we want to, placement is a big deal. There was a recent article about some boot camps that make promises and inflate their placement rates. I don't do that. We don't do that. We want to be very honest about our placement rates. We don't charge a dime to the students who are coming in to Resilient Coders. We believe that education should be free and everyone should have access to a high-growth career. We do pay a stipend as they're going through the program because you have to quit your job. It's a boot camp. They're working, classes start at 10 a.m. They end at 3 p.m. However, we have community hours. They have to have projects every week. They work in groups. They have a stand-up every morning. They have a stand-down in the afternoon. So we try to prepare them as if they were working for a team, working within a team in a tech organization just from the very start.
And listening to you, when I was doing a bit of research on you before we started the podcast today, it really feels like the traditional educational system is in need of a shake-up. And I'm reading continuously about many students that they may even be lucky enough to leave education with a degree, but they're not ready to solve problems in the workplace. So one of the reasons I invited you on the podcast was hearing about your belief that these skills that we're talking about here are becoming the new degree requirement. So how can educational institutions adapt to this change in the job market now, do you think?
I grew up, went to college. It was a lot of memorization.
Yeah.
It was a lot of learning visually, memorization, and using those skills. People learn through exposure. They learn through shadowing. They learn through hands-on training. And in a traditional education system, those skills aren't always allowed. You sit in a classroom, there's about 33 people or more in a classroom. You have one teacher to these 33 students. So it doesn't allow for a lot of the visual, auditory, kinesthetic skills that it takes to learn in spaces like tech. So I think that, just allowing young adults to, or this next generation of learners to employ those skills, just learning how, and one of the things that, to go back for a minute, one of the things that's essential to our program, the first week, our managing director of engineering is working with our students so that they know how they learn. They have to learn how they learn. And I don't remember being in school and learning or having someone unearth, this is your best way of learning. You're a visual learner. You're an auditory learner. You learn through kinesthetics. You learn through rhythm and sound. Though we need to prepare our young adults and prepare our children and help them understand how they learn, because then you take the cap off of their capacity and they can move forward quickly and more efficiently because they know, this is the best way for me to acquire these skills. So we don't have that space in education, and it takes millions and millions of dollars just to run a school system. So I'm not imputing or trying to say anything negative. I came out of the public school system, but there are different methods of teaching and learning. And when you provide those avenues to people, you will see, you will watch and see them blossom in unbelievable ways.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible and inspirational listening to that there. And I think those words will resonate with so many people listening all over the world. And as someone who is a transformational leader and a connector of dots, I've got to ask, how do you cultivate collaboration within your organization and also foster an environment that nurtures both personal and professional growth? Because it's a balance that many struggle to achieve.
I think that because for me, I've had so many positions where when I started in industry, I was in an entry-level position. I started an entry-level position being the support person for a team. And so I always remember where I come from, and I always remember what it's like to be that support person for a team of 6 people. And you're just constantly moving and flexing in different spaces and places so that you can meet the needs and be that backbone to the team. And so I still have that same mindset of being the backbone to the team and being able to flex. I know who I am. I know my personality. I know that I'm a results-oriented person. And if you were to look at like a DISC assessment or something, I'm a D, or a dominant personality, where I like to get things done. I like to accomplish. I'm a person who likes to be in the driver's seat. And that's a great thing when you're looking at getting work done, but it can also be, it can also impede the team if you don't know everyone else who's on that bus, so to speak. And so I've learned to flex. I've learned to know who is on my team, know the needs that they have as far as, are they a person that's driven by data? Well, let me speak to them in terms of data, because that's going to motivate them. Are they a person that's more, they need more one-on-one attention. They need to understand the why of the strategy. They need to understand before they can grasp it and move it forward. And then you have another person that just may be that very gregarious, big personality. They are very sanguine and they like to have friends and they like to have conversations. So being able to meet that need of breaking the ice prior to moving into what the goal is and what the purpose is. So because I understand that framework, it allows me to flex in and out when dealing with my team, being the connector, making sure that everybody on the team, they feel heard, they feel seen, but we all have the common goal of accomplishing the task at hand. And so it's a lot of work. It's not easy, but it creates an environment where the vision can come to full fruition when you know who's on your team, when you know who's on the bus, and you meet them where they are so that the big picture can be accomplished. We can all reach that big, hairy, audacious goal.
And just to bring to life everything that we're talking about here, do you have any success stories from Resilient Coders, alumni, and maybe explain how they exemplify the organisation's mission to achieve things like social justice and economic empowerment? Because these kids are so special, right?
They are special. And we had an event last week, and I got to meet a lot of them in person for the first time. And Neil, to hear their stories and to see the work that they're doing in community. Like I said, we have about 300 alumni now, and they're leaders in their organizations. They're leaders of their ERG in the organization where they get to work. They come back to Resilient Coders religiously to volunteer and to help the next cohort go through. They're community organizers. They are working in community, giving and donating to causes that advance their communities. They take care of their families. One question that I asked each alumni when I met them was, what's different now? Now that you have become a software engineer, you've changed your salary has increased and your personal economy has advanced. What's different? And the answers were astounding. One person said to me, I bought my mother a house. My mother is I'm a first generation immigrant, and my mother has worked so hard. She worked 3-4 jobs to take care of me and my brother, and I was able to buy my mom a house. Another student I asked, what's different now? He said, I have health insurance and I'm able to get a therapist. Something so simple. They, were also talking about starting businesses and being able to bring their friends and their family in to create economic opportunities for them. So when you help a young adult create an opportunity or a pathway for a successful future or a successful career, you not only help that person, you help the generation behind them. So that's when we talk about closing the wealth gap, it's not just for that one person. It's for the mother who's on computer and her 9-year-old daughter is sitting next to her, and you can hear her daughter's voice in the background say, no, mommy, no, that's not what they said. They said the code should be this way. They said, no, mommy. And then you hear that 9-year-old say, I'm going to be a software engineer as well. That's when you create pathways, not just for one person, but for the generations to come. And that's work that we all can do.
Absolutely love that. And I'm curious, how does your work with the Leadership Collective, how does that complement your role at Resilient Coders, and what are some of the key leadership principles that you hope to instill in some of these emerging leaders too?
It's beautiful that the Leadership Collective was developed to help emerging leaders, those who are new, who have new leadership roles, who are new in the industry, to help them kind of find their path, to find their footing, to develop a personal brand about who they are and how they show up when they get to work, to know how they're wired, to know what their bend is. And so being able to work within resilient coders, within that same age group, 18 to 30 years old, creating those opportunities to have conversations and to coach the young adults as they're going through resilient coders, that's my life work. So I never feel like I'm going to work. I never feel like, oh, wow, I got to get up and do resilient coders, or I have to switch hats and do. This is just how I flow in life. And so working with the young adults through resilient coders, I've learned so much. I'm constantly empowered. I'm constantly being able to have the transfer of information with these brilliant, burgeoning young engineers, because a lot of them have work experience. They're not, they've worked in industry. They've worked as teachers, a chemistry teacher. They've been an ESL instructor. They've been security for companies. They've worked at Walmart. So they have life experience. So it's a constant exchange of information, and we're all growing simultaneously.
And we've talked a lot today about opening pathways, not just for this generation, but for future generations too. And I think you've opened many pathways yourself throughout your career. And I've got to ask, if you were to look back, what kind of challenges have you faced as a woman of colour in leadership positions throughout your career? And how have you been able to navigate over these challenges and become an influential leader that you are today? Because I would imagine you've had to overcome a lot yourself, right?
Yeah, I've had to overcome a lot of in my life, and I think I can just drill it down to one lesson that I've learned from, on my own path, and it's been the impetus for just driving me towards emerging leaders. And I believe that you have to have a vision for your life, and if you don't have a vision, people will always find something for you to do. And how that relates to my past is I was often looking for a leader or someone in the organization that I reported to coach me, to sponsor me, to see the good and the greatness in me and to promote it. And it didn't always happen. I've been, in situations like, I think we call it the Matilda effect, where I was in a room and I would say, hey, how about I have a great idea. How about we do it this way or that way? And it was ignored. And then, you go to another meeting and someone would say, that boss would say, hey, I have a great idea. And they would say my idea. And though that feeling was hurtful and, sometimes debilitating, it helped me eventually understand that if I want to progress in my life and in my future, I need to see the greatness in myself. I need to have a vision for my life. I need to be self-sufficient in some spaces where I don't need to hear the attaboy or you did a great job. I need to find community, the community and the sponsors and the champions in my life in a personal inner circle that would encourage me and lean into that, as opposed to looking for that from other people who just didn't have it to give. So the advice I give to young adults often is, what is your vision? Have a vision for your life. Be the CEO of your own life. It's nice to get the support of those that you respect. It's nice to have them respond to you in a personal way. But if they don't let that break you. Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't feel defeated. Your community is there. It's going to be an adventure for you to find them.
And I think your words will inspire people listening all over the world today. And for some, they may walk away inspired, but then let imposter syndrome kick in, or things like, I'm not technical enough, or I won't fit in, or I'm not represented in this industry. And I'd love to banish some of those myths once and for all today. So what advice would you give to young adults from BIPOC communities who aspire to break into the tech industry and make a difference in their communities?
There are so many communities for BIPOC folks. And when I say so many, yes, we know that within tech, the number of Black and brown folks who are in tech is minuscule compared to our white counterparts. But the communities that are there, like Resilient Coders, 100 Devs, that's a global organization where you can learn. Our managing director of engineering, Leon Noel, founded 100 Devs. It's a global opportunity for folks to go through a self-paced program to learn. YouTube has millions of videos from people who can teach, who are teaching about tech. And there's a trick that I often tell our students when they're having a hard time with a concept or finding the context in a coding situation. There are videos for children. Whenever there's a difficult concept for me, I look at what, like, coding for kids. Let's look at what they're teaching for kids. So start with coding for kids and build on your competencies from there. Don't just let a no be a no. Don't give up. Start with coding for kids. Build up until you find that community and you can get away from that imposter syndrome, because if someone else can do it, you can do it. If there are millions of people in this world who are software engineers, why not you?
And I echo your sentiments completely there. And I think your words will inspire people from all over the world. But if it has resonated with even just one individual today who wants to take action having listened to your words, where is the best place for that person to find you or your team online, or just find out more about anything that we talked about today?
So I love collaboration. I love working together. If you're hiring entry-level software engineers, we're here. If you know of a student in the Boston, the Philadelphia area, 18 to 30 years old, who wants to be trained as a software engineer, we're here. If you'd like to donate to Resilient Coders, we're here. You can find us at www.resilientcoders.org. You can also find us on LinkedIn at Resilient Coders and on Twitter at Resilient Coders. And I love to have conversations. I love to get some feedback from people, hear your experiences. You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Ayanna Lott-Pollard, and I look forward to hearing from everyone.
Well, I always say at the end of every episode that technology works best when it brings people together, and how you're using technology and empowering BIPOC youth from low-income communities to become software engineers with an average salary of $94,000 or upwards is just phenomenal. And also how social justice and economic empowerment and closing that generational wealth gap, it's so important. And just a big thank you for coming on here, sharing your story, and hopefully inspiring a new generation of talent too.
Neil, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast. And I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Ayanna today from Resilient Coders. Absolutely inspirational lady. And I think it's such an important topic, the importance of equity, access and social justice in the tech industry. And we need to get more people into the industry with a variety of backgrounds, with different perspectives, different ways of solving problems. That is what the tech industry is all about. So I champion Resilient Coders for the important work they're doing in empowering youth from low-income communities and helping them become software engineers and closing that generational wealth gap, and also opening up pathways for the next generation too. So I'd encourage you all to learn more about their mission and support their efforts to create a more diverse and inclusive tech industry. And if you've got a story you would like to share, I invite you onto this podcast and you can share it with me. Or equally, if you want to share it privately through email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You want to share it through LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, just send me a DM on @NeilC.Hughes. Remember to subscribe to the show and leave a rating and review if you do have time. It really helps the show battle against the algorithms and attract more guests from a variety of backgrounds and a wealth of insights and experience. These are the kind of people I want to get on here, and I need your help in doing that. If I can help you with anything, send me a message. If you do have a chance to leave a rating and review, I appreciate it. But other than that, just a genuine thank you for joining me today. And until next time, don't be a stranger.